Forget jump scares. These were survival rules, 39 of them. From garlic on doors to fires on hills, here's how entire villages turned Halloween into a playbook for staying alive. And the strangest rule of all comes last. Ready. Carve jack-o'-lanterns to scare off wandering spirits. Whole streets glowed like watchmen when the lanterns came out. In Ireland and Scotland, families carved turnips during Samhain to ward off trouble, and immigrants later switched to easier American pumpkins. The tale pinned it on Stingy Jack, a trickster doomed to roam with an ember in a hollowed root. Farms put grimacing faces on stoops to warn off pranksters and anything that didn't cast a normal shadow. Neighbors compared patterns the way people compare porch lights now, judging whose grin looked fiercest. Police notices from early 20th century towns even linked proper lighting with calmer Halloween nights. Kids carried small lanterns home from parties to avoid ditches and drunks. The simple rule was, light beats mischief, especially near fields and crossroads. If your lantern flickered, you didn't ask why. You relit and walked faster. Wear costumes and masks to confuse the dead. The village vanished on purpose when the sun went down. In Scotland and Ireland, guising meant children and adults changed faces on All Hallows, trading names for jokes and songs. Costumes blurred social lines, and for one night, the dead supposedly missed their targets. Ministers tolerated it when songs included blessings for the household hearth. A loud neighbor could become a silent monk, and nobody recognized the gate. Householders paid with apples, nuts, or coins to keep the mood friendly. Parents said, if something looks for you, make it guess wrong. The modern party mask is just the cleaned-up descendant of that logic. It's hard to haunt the right person when everyone is someone else. Light bonfires at Samhain to guard homes and herds. Hillside fires drew borders you could see for miles. On places like the Hill of Ward in County Meath, people gathered at Samhain and watched new flames crown the night. Families led cattle between twin fires, believing smoke discouraged illness and thieves. Old hearths went dark, then were relit from the communal blaze for luck. Local leaders managed the first spark, and everyone treated it like borrowed lightning. Sparks carried prayers the way paper lanterns carry wishes today. Teenagers dared each other closer, then swore they felt heat chase nightmares. Farmers said foxes kept their distance when the ridge burned bright. If you left with a live coal, you felt winter blink. Hang garlic at doors to repel vampires. Doorways smelled like kitchens and talismans at the same time. Across the Balkans and parts of Romania, families stacked garlic braids near windows during autumn and long wakes. The rule said harm hesitates when a threshold stings the nose. Priests blessed the home, and neighbors brought cloves tied with red thread. Children learned to rub door frames, pretending they were warding patrols. Travelers arriving late saw the shine and knew not to joke. It wasn't about gourmet taste, it was about keeping breath and blood. Stories linked night visitors with sickness, and garlic stood an easy post. If it also kept wolves uninterested, nobody complained about redundancy. Hammer horseshoes above doorways for luck and protection. Every blacksmith's scrap could become a house's bodyguard. In England and Ireland, a found horseshoe over the lintel promised luck and pushed back witchcraft. Some swore the open end must face up to hold good fortune. Others turned it down to pour blessings on anyone who entered. The St. Dunstan tale spread fast. A saint shooing the devil taught iron's bite. Sailors nailed small horseshoes to masts and cabin doors for calmer seas. Wedding parties touched the shoe before the first toast, just in case. Neighborhoods learned which doors had the oldest streaked iron. If a nail came loose, people tightened it before they knocked. Keep iron nails, pins, or scissors to thwart fairies. A pocket of metal meant one less worry at night. Celtic folk tradition treated iron like a firewall against fairies and changeling fears. Mothers fixed straight pins to shawls and crib cloths without drama. Smiths were minor celebrities because their trade made protective scrap. Open scissors by the bedside worked like a crossed sword in miniature. Midwives carried small knives, part tool, part invisible fence for the newborn. The rule reached barns too, where iron bits hung by animal stalls. Nobody argued metallurgy. They argued peace of mind. When storms thudded against thatched roofs, the metal stayed awake even if you slept. Draw a salt line across thresholds to block evil. One handful at the door turned into a hard boundary. From Central Europe to the British Isles, salt meant purity and contract in household magic. Grandmothers traced lines at doors, windows, and sometimes cribs before a long wake. Merchants sprinkled storerooms after rumors of theft or envy. Salt on the sill married superstition with common sense about preservation. When fights ended, families swept the line sunwise and started fresh. Travelers asked to step over the band like it was a rope. If the grain scattered, you didn't blame the wind. You redrew. In villages with thin walls, a strong line felt thicker than brick. Ring church bells at dusk on All Hallows' Eve. The sound told trouble to keep its distance. Parishes from Devon to Galicia rang curfew or soul bells around dusk in late October. Older people said each toll cleared a lane for the living to walk home. Youngsters counted peals and raced to doorways before the last note. Bell ringers loved the job because their work felt like weather control. When fog smothered lanes, the tower carried the village on its shoulders. The noise cut through cider arguments and barn whispers equally. Even skeptics paused their quarrels until the air settled. If nothing else, bells turned midnight into a schedule with edges. Do not invite strangers inside. Vampires need permission. A closed mouth kept a closed door safe. Across vampire lore in Eastern Europe and beyond, the intruder supposedly required a welcome to enter. Parents taught children to answer from the window, not the latch. Wakes brought cousins to watch doors, so grieving hosts didn't slip. Peddlers waited outside, learning local etiquette in a hurry. When a voice used your name perfectly, you checked twice before replying. Stories linked courtesy with danger, which is a cruel pairing. Households agreed hospitality begins on the porch, not the hallway. If the guest was decent, they understood the pause and smiled. Stay off crossroads after dark. Spirits wander there. Night paths tangled where roads crossed like knotted thread. Folklore treated crossroads as thin places, good for bargains, bad for wandering. Execution sites and suicides sometimes ended there, deepening the chill. Travelers took longer routes rather than cut through the X after sundown. Musicians joked about deals and fiddles, then headed the other way. Lanterns seemed to dim for no good reason in the center. Carters kept wheels moving so horses wouldn't balk or bolt. Constables knew those corners bred both daring and regret. If you had to cross, you didn't stop to think. Carry a lantern home to outsmart will-o'-the-wisp. People who trusted marsh lights often slept in ditches. In English fens and Irish bogs, ghostly flames lured travelers from safe paths. Locals called them will-o'-the-wisp or jack-o'-lantern long before pumpkins. A steady lantern, held low, helped reveal real ground from reflections. Fishermen swore the trick lights danced when you swore back. Scientists blamed gases, and elders blamed whatever needed scolding. Either way, groups walked close and argued less near water. Guides carried long poles, tapping mud like blind canes for sound footing. If your light failed, the group decided the route, not you. Offer soul cakes at doors, trick-or-treat's old safety rule. Prayers came with pastry and a count of names. In medieval and early modern Britain, households baked small soul cakes for those who knocked around All Souls' Day. Children and poor adults sold houses, trading verses for blessings on the dead. A busy lane meant the departed wouldn't be forgotten this year. Hosts got goodwill, visitors got food, and a polite exit point. The crowd moved predictably, which kept drunks and brawlers out of kitchens. Parish clerks sometimes joined, making a ledger out of a ritual. Today's candy line echoes that structured, door-by-door rhythm. The door opens, a quick exchange happens, and the night keeps moving. Turn clothing inside out to break fairy glamour. The trick broke a trick, and that was the point. In Scottish and Irish tales, reversing a garment snapped illusions cast by fair folk. Fishermen reversed caps when sea fog rolled in strangely fast. Travelers flipped cloaks if a familiar path suddenly felt wrong. Girls dared each other to turn aprons inside out near ring forts. Shepherds said lambs calmed after the smallest switch in fabric. It cost nothing and didn't frighten children watching closely. If the world looked normal again, nobody argued method. And if it didn't, they reversed back and ran home. Conceal witch bottles beneath hearths to trap curses. Renovations kept turning up clay jugs full of pins. 17th century households in England hid witch bottles under floors and fireplaces as counter-magic. Bellarmine jugs with nails, hair, and sometimes urine were supposed to snag malice like flies. Builders in Suffolk and Essex still find them lodged near chimney throats. Across the Atlantic, similar finds appeared in old Virginia houses near river ports. The hearth mattered because smoke rose where gossip rose. If envy had a path, the bottle sat in it. Families never opened them later out of respect and caution. You don't test a trap by sticking your hand inside. Carve witch marks around doors, windows, and fireplaces. Walls signed their own security policies in pencil and knife. Apotropaic marks, daisy wheels, double V initials, and burn patterns ringed openings in Tudor and Stuart buildings. Places like barns, manors, and even theaters carried these quiet diagrams. Carvers weren't vandals. They were caretakers with sharp tools and worries. Some marks clustered near ovens where fire once ran wild. Others lived under stairs where strangers ducked from the weather. Survey teams later mapped them and realized the scale of the habit. Once you notice them, you see them on every old beam. It's home security, written in geometry and hope. Set a broom upright by the door to block witches. A simple broom became a bouncer with good posture. In European and Appalachian lore, standing brooms distracted or barred unwanted night visitors. Some versions said a witch must count every straw before entry. Others framed it as a line officer posted at the border. Mothers liked the rule because it kept floors cleaner anyway. Coffee circles traded stories of failed midnight knocks at tidy homes. If the broom fell, the householder reset it and said nothing. Barn doors got their own brooms, equal rights for livestock. Counting straws takes time, which the night rarely grants. Keep a rowan branch bound with red thread over doors. Red against green warned trouble to back off politely. Highland families treated rowan, also called mountain ash, as the go-to household protector. They tied small crossed twigs with red wool and pinned them over thresholds. Cattle wore rowan charms during seasonal moves across open hills. Isle of Man stories called rowan the tree that remembers your name. Children learned not to break the twigs for games or whistles. Neighbors shared branches the way people share starter plants now. When a charm dried out, it was quietly replaced. The work was small, and the peace felt big. Place a knife under the pillow against the night hag's sleep, fought back with a pocket blade and a prayer. From Ireland to Newfoundland, old hag stories described crushing pressure in bed and breathless panic. People framed it as a visitor, and tools became anchors against fear. Mid-sized knives slid into sheaths under mattresses, edge turned harmlessly down. Sailors reported fewer episodes when steel slept near their ribs. Doctors later named sleep paralysis, but folks kept their routines. A knife meant you weren't helpless, even when you couldn't move. Partners learned not to joke about it in the morning. If the dreams behaved, Nobody demanded a better explanation. Scatter poppy seeds or millet to distract the undead. Petty arithmetic supposedly saved lives on bad nights. Balkan and Slavic households scattered small seeds at doors and paths during funerals or anxious seasons. The belief said restless beings must count every grain before crossing. Families liked solutions that didn't scare children or start fights. Cemetery roots got extra handfuls on damp, silent evenings. Seeds at windows also discouraged human thieves with muddy boots. After storms, people checked for neat little trails in the dirt. If they found them, they swept and scattered again. Sometimes busy work for the dead becomes calm for the living. Wear silver or cast silver bullets for wolf protection. Stories gave the metal more bite than chemistry ever could. In French retellings of the Gévaudan killings, a hunter named Jean Chastel supposedly used a special blessed bullet. German tales echoed the theme, turning silver into cautionary hardware. Hunters actually relied on powder, dogs, and patience more than jewelry. Still, villages minted charms and swapped bullet molds like recipes. Blacksmiths rolled eyes and sold brass, then listened to stories anyway. Tales traveled faster than wolves, and details grew shinier each mile. When a wolf finally fell, nobody checked the alloy. Fear loves a symbol, and silver gleams just right at night. Cover mirrors during wakes so spirits don't get trapped. Rooms softened when the glass went under cloth. Irish households covered mirrors during wakes, while Jewish families did so during Shiva for different reasons. In both cases, reflections stepped aside for memory and respect. Neighbors pinned curtains with quiet, practiced hands while the kettle sang. Children learned not to pull corners, just to peek. Superstition claimed mirrors confuse souls. Custom said grief needs fewer distractions. Either way, the rule kept laughter low and eyes on visitors. After burial, the covers came off like a small sunrise. Rituals protect us, even when we only half believe them. Travel in pairs on All Hallows Night for safety. Nobody wanted to be the lone shadow on the lane. Community watches formed ad hoc, cousins, neighbors, and the loud uncle with a lantern. Paired walking cut down on pranks turning into fights. Constables appreciated the help and saved the cells for real trouble. Festivals funneled crowds down main streets where adults could supervise. Teenagers learned the long way home wasn't brave, just stressful. If one person slipped, the other could laugh and lift. A second set of eyes sees more than ghosts and potholes. Safety looked like friendship, wearing scarves and stubborn boots. Extinguish hearths, relight from the communal bonfire. Old flames went out so a new year could start clean. At Samhain gatherings, families doused hearths and carried embers from the big fire. The shared light made neighbors feel linked through winter's first weeks. Children guarded lanterns with both hands like tiny crown jewels. Back home, the rekindling turned kitchens into bright, humming hearts again. Smoke rose straight for once, as if the night approved. Arguments paused until the coal was snug in the grate. Nobody cooked until the new flame blessed the pot. You could taste the ceremony in the first warm bread. Hang a glass witch ball in the window to snare malice sunlight. Weaponize the parlor with a bowl of color from coastal England to New England. Families hung hollow glass spheres to confuse or trap ill will. Fisherfolk said the balls mirrored trouble back out to sea. Gardeners liked them because birds avoided the reflected flares. Visitors saw bright orbs and tidied their gossip on the porch. Even skeptics liked the way light spilled across floorboards. When panes rattled, the spheres chimed like clear little warnings. Collectors labeled colors for seasons just to be thorough. If your window glittered, the room felt pre-armed and cheerful. Bury concealed shoes in walls to catch wandering witches. Builders hid footprints where walls would remember them. Across Britain, and later the colonies, worn shoes were sealed in chimneys and thresholds as guardians. The logic said a witch would follow the scent and stall. Northampton even kept records as fines multiplied in attics and hearths. Cobblers recognized stitching from decades past, proof of long-standing habits. Kids shrieked happily when a dusty boot fell from plaster. Homeowners reburied them nearby, admitting uncertainty beats bravado. If a shoe protected one family, it could protect the next. Wardrobes changed, but the footprint kept the same stubborn job. Paint hex signs on barns to guard crops, and cattle barns wore bright circles like shields you could see from roads. Among Pennsylvania Dutch communities, bold motifs promised luck, fertility, and protection. Designs featured stars, tulips, and the famous distelfink birds. Farmers argued art styles the way mechanics argue tool brands. The signs also let strangers know someone cares for this place. Harvest seasons felt calmer when patterns watched over doors. New boards got new paint from relatives with steady hands. Storms faded the colors, and fall brought touch-ups again. A good pattern was a prayer you didn't have to speak. Sweep thresholds sunwise to chase out mischief. A clean doorway doubled as a quiet charm. In Gaelic regions, sweeping diasil clockwise matched the sun's path for luck. Households did it before guests arrived or during tense weeks. Ash and dirt left like they had someplace better to be. Arguments lost momentum if the broom crossed the entrance first. Shopkeepers traced small circles on rainy days to freshen moods. The method mattered less than the intention and rhythm. Everyone knew not to step on the pile mid-sweep. When the broom rested, the room breathed like it finally exhaled. Keep cats indoors on mischief night to avoid harm. Windows became cat TV, while the streets got noisy. Communities in parts of the UK and US marked mischief night with pranks before Halloween. Shelters sometimes paused black cat adoptions around late October to be cautious. Owners kept pets inside to avoid fireworks, cars, and mean jokes. Posters reminded teens a scared animal can scratch first and regret later. Police asked for early curfews on the busiest neighborhoods. Kids learned you can be silly without scaring something small. A warm lap beats any alley on a windy night. The prank ends. The cat still wants breakfast at 6. Chalk a protective circle before night meetings or rites. A white ring turned a patch of ground into a contract. Cunning folk and ceremonial traditions in Britain drew circles to define safe space. Participants stepped in with respect, leaving shoes and loud talk outside. The line wasn't a prison, it was a fence, with rules. Reginald Scott wrote skeptically about charms, but noted how common they were. Villagers trusted circles for negotiations, oaths, and simple peace talks. Even bonfire planners marked chalk where dancers shouldn't step. No magic needed, just agreement written where feet can see it. Step across, play fair, and don't pretend you didn't notice. Sleep with a Bible open to Psalm 91. Night terrors met a page that promised refuge. In the American South and Appalachia, families opened a Bible by the bed during storms and sickness. Psalm 91, a protection psalm, often faced up for courage. People read softly until the house sounded taller. If a window shook, someone rested a hand on the spine. Children memorized a line or two, enough to feel brave later. The habit traveled with migrants and stayed through rented rooms. When fear finally dozed off, the page curled slightly at the corner. Paper can't fight, but hearts listen to what paper says. Place bread and salt on windowsills as household wards. Kitchens guarded windows with pantry items and patience. Across Slavic regions, bread and salt signaled welcome to friends and no to harm. The pairing meant plenty and purity, two doors that shut misfortune out. Families refreshed the plate before weddings, births, and long journeys. Travelers recognized the sign and straightened their posture. Children learned not to snack from the small sacred plate. When the wind lifted curtains, grains skittered like tiny sentries. After hard winters, the first fresh loaf felt ceremonial again. Hospitality doubled as a warning: come right or don't come. Tie red thread on cradles to thwart the changeling. Cribs wore bracelets before babies learned about shoes. In Romania, Bulgaria, and neighboring regions, red string guarded infants from envy and the evil eye. Grandmothers tied knots with careful thumbs and quiet blessings. Mothers tucked tiny amulets inside pillows for extra comfort. Visitors touched the string before touching the baby, simple and clear. Nurses who moved between villages carried thread in every bag. If a knot frayed, it was replaced without fuss or speeches. The rule protected nerves as much as it protected newborns. Sleep comes quicker when the cradle already looks defended. Ring a handbell to break fairy or witch glamour. A bright note cut through whispers and made choices easier. Villagers kept small bells near doors and bedside tables in some regions. Ringing once signaled, "Wake up." Twice signaled, "Someone come here now." The sound startled animals back to ordinary behavior during eerie pauses. Children practiced the bell so they wouldn't fumble at night. Festivals lent handbells to guides shepherding crowds through lanes. Bells also ended arguments faster than elders could shout. Noise can be a boundary when words aren't enough. If the air changed afterward, nobody asked for an invoice. Step over threshold with right foot first for luck. Entrances became games of small choreography that people swore by. In Scotland and northern England, first footing and right foot customs colored holidays and visits. Guests paused, reset, and stepped again if they botched it. Superstitions bundled courtesy with caution, and nobody minded the mix. After a funeral, the step felt heavier but still necessary. After a wedding, everyone laughed and tried not to trip. The rule was cheap, cheerful, and mostly harm-free. Old houses creaked like they appreciated the effort. Sometimes respect looks like paying attention to your feet. Whistling after dark. It calls unwanted spirits. Silence saved you from the company you didn't want. British sailors banned whistling below decks, suspicious of winds, and worse. Miners in Cornwall discouraged it underground, where echoes turned mean. Parents said nighttime whistles sounded too much like invitations. Street guards claimed whistles confused their calls and signals. The rule capped noise after curfew without arguing about music. If you had to whistle, you did it in daylight. Crows seemed to agree, which didn't help anyone sleep better. You can hum at home. The lane prefers quiet. Bar doors and shutters by sunset. On All Hallows Wood did the talking long before steel deadbolts did. Curfew bells in medieval towns encouraged early closures and tidier nights. On All Hallows, families shut shutters, slid bars, and checked latches twice. Children handled candles, while adults handled iron and wood. Street wardens liked seeing windows darken in a steady wave. Troublemakers moved on when doors sounded firm and final. Neighbors called through cracks before opening, just to verify voices. The village slept inside a wooden spine it built together. Morning made noise. Midnight made rules you could hear. Leave milk at the hearth for brownies to help. Chores got done faster when you respected the invisible staff. Scottish and Northern English tales described brownies as shy helpers of tidy homes. A saucer of milk by the hearth kept routines smooth. If you mocked them or skipped the gift, help vanished overnight. Farm work mysteriously finished, made believers out of late sleepers. Parents used the story to teach continuity and quiet gratitude. Travelers brought the habit to new cottages with old hearts. On bitter nights, the saucer steamed like a tiny treaty. You can't prove a helper, but you'll notice when help stops. Check Halloween candy for tampering. Urban legend debunked. Parents turned into detectives because rumors outran facts. In the 1970s, a Texas case involved a father poisoning his own child with candy for insurance, not a stranger. Despite headlines, studies found almost no verified cases of random tampering by neighbors. Communities still organized safe routes, lit porches, and quick checks. Hospitals once offered X-rays, which made everybody feel busy and brave. Police preferred supervised parties and block events over late wandering. The myth stuck because it speaks to every fear at once. Real safety still looks like flashlights, buddies, and knowing your street. Inspect the hall if you want. Just don't panic first. Don't speak your name if called from the dark. A perfect imitation of you is still not you. Folklore across the aisles warned that voices from hedges could lure you close. Children practiced answering questions with questions until dawn. Travelers kept replies short and feet even shorter. If something knew your name, it should also know your home. Neighbors learned to hail each other with lanterns, not whispers. Dogs earned treats for growling at moonlit invitations. Survival favored manners with boundaries, not bravado. And if the night asked twice, the door knew how to stay closed.